My people, mi pueblo, my people. How y'all are today? This is your boy Adeleke. Time has passed a little bit since last time I did a video. Wanted to update the conversation a little bit and talk about something. It's very specific. This idea of forgiveness, and specifically not just the idea in general, but very specific how. So one of the things that, as humans, we have this experience and we have experiences within our being that are unpleasant or outside of our intention or desire, and may bring us discomfort or distaste and whatnot. And a lot of times we find ourselves holding on to the trauma and the pain and the discomfort of the experience. And sometimes those experiences are reoccurring too, like bad relationships, for instance. And so the reality or the remembering of that bad experience happens. And so it's like this experience started off bad here at one point in the past, and then over time, we know there's been all these reminders of how this particular experience isn't optimal. It has room for growth, and sometimes that experience weighs on us to the point where, like, you know what, I'm tired of this trying to grow. I'm just gonna pull the plug. What I mean? I'm done. And it depends on what that relationship is. It depends on how powerful that relationship. It depends on the nature of that relationship. That could really have significant impacts on our morale and how we look at the world and how we deal with other people. And so, at the same time, it's necessary that we set boundaries for ourselves, that we aren't positioned to be taken advantage of or discounted or thrown aside or in any other kind of way, mistreated or just, put down or just made feel small or any of that. It's not, and sometimes that is not done on purpose by those that offend us or whatever. But whether it's on purpose or not is really without consequence, right? It's like Bobby did X. I feel like crap because of what Bobby did, and that's just what it is. And we don't have to explain to anyone if we are feeling however we're feeling. It's not our obligation to explain to even the person that offended us how they offended us or demand for them. It's not our point to to have to explain to them how they offended us. I mean, it's good to make the attempt to communicate that, because it does help in resolving and moving things forward. But sometimes that's not an option, and when those opportunities present themselves, it's like, where do we go? Like, I have this conflict with this person, and how do I resolve it if I can't even get a conversation going with this person? And sometimes you can get the conversation going with them, and you still can't resolve it. Either way it goes, though, like forgiveness. And I've kind of known this myself my whole life, because I grew up in a very interesting experience. And so it wasn't too different than a lot of people's experience. We had a little bit of domestic violence and, family issues, discommunication. I say discommunication. I said that on purpose. Not just miscommunication, discommunication. Like, miscommunication is like not seeing eye to eye. Discommunication is actually talking bad to people, And so we've had a little bit of all of that in my coming up. I've seen it, from a young age, and nobody likes it. You know what I mean? However, keeping that in our mind, it slows us down, and it can create problems and impedance and resistance for anything else and everything else that we looking to grow and build. If we when we don't look to resolve it, and so I've come up with I've realized that in my youth, but then a few years ago, several years ago now, I was working with an elder who was a peer in the moment. We were in the moment when I met him. We were peers. We were studying together. We were in the same curriculum, but he's definitely my elder. And Baba put me on to this concept called. It comes from the Polynesian people, the Pacific Islands. It's called Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono. So that's how it's said. Ho'oponopono. It's spelled H-O with an apostrophe O P-O-N-O-P-O-N-O. Ho'oponopono. And the Ho'oponopono is a prayer, ritual prayer that is, I've read in some cases where people refer to the Ho'oponopono as a zero-sum game, right? It's a prayer. It's a forgiveness prayer. It's a forgiveness prayer or ritual that is done whenever there's a great offense. Anyone who within the community, a lot of times it's like, okay, you were offended, Bobby, you offended Susie. I mean, of course, in Polynesian world, people's names are probably not Bobby and Susie, but you've been offended, and so we need to do the Ho'oponopono. The elders will encourage that the Ho'oponopono is done. And in the traditional sense, the Ho'oponopono is involved. It's much more involved. But the essence of the Ho'oponopono is forgiveness, and it's it's forgiveness from a zero-sum perspective, right? It's to cool the energies, right? It's to cool the energies of an offense, and in our frame of reference, or how I learned it from my elder, who was just Black American, and he learned it through his experience traveling. But when I learned it in the mindset that the Ho'oponopono and the forgiveness that is sought after in the Ho'oponopono is not for a person that offended. He did this to me. How on earth could I ever forgive him? I can never forgive him. What he did was so wrong and so treacherous, so problematic, and so damaging to my awareness, damaging to my ego, damaging to my self understanding. It just was so damaging that I could never forgive him. And that's what we say to ourselves. You know what I'm saying? We create a limitation of our own capacity to forgive another human being, and that is outside our humanity. Like, as humans, we are built for forgiveness. We're built for love. We're built for forgiveness. We're built for compassion. We are built for empathy. We're built for understanding. We're built for these things. And we still ignore that sometimes, and we justify that our ignoring it. The Ho'oponopono reminds us to not ignore that, to embrace ourselves in a way that we honor why we feel offended. To give honor to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you trespassed on me this way, and I'm an autonomous person, and I have every right to feel offended by your behavior, decision, choice, movement. And the Ho'oponopono requires, or it allows for us to honor that feeling and find a way to forgiveness. So that's my take on the Ho'oponopono. Now, here is the meat. Here is the prayer and the practice of the prayer itself. So the Ho'oponopono, like, and this is now when you go and if you Google and you do your own searches, you're gonna find something a little different. And I would argue, based on what I've learned and how I learned the Ho'oponopono and been able to apply it, that this is the way the Ho'oponopono is meant to be. Some of the things that you find in Google are going to be, there are going to be Americans talking about the Ho'oponopono because others have been exposed to it. And I think they get it wrong. So I wanted to say that in the front, so to be clear, to catch this and the way that my elder gave it to me, and even I've been able to not narrow it down, but make the language more precise to help the memory work, right? Because the Ho'oponopono starts with the heart, right? The Ho'oponopono is about the condition of the heart. Like we talk in Kemetic science, we talk about Ma'at, and Ma'at is the goddess of justice, but she always is weighing the heart. And from the Kemetic paradigm, and from traditional African perspectives of life, our being is to be lighthearted. When we come in with a light heart, and our objective in life is, and like we talk in Yoruba tradition, Iwa Pele, and that is to maintain good character, and that is also can be, summarized as a lighthearted living, to keep the heart light. And so the Ho'oponopono also speaks to that. And in particularly the way that it was learned by me taught to me by my elder. Okay. So it was given to me as a 4-prong, or he used a 4-legged table. And I like that because the 4-legged table analogy, reflects on the idea of balance, right? Okay. And so the 4 legs of the Ho'oponopono are: I love you, I'm sorry, I thank you, I forgive you. I love you, I'm sorry, I thank you, and I forgive you. It doesn't matter the order when you're practicing the Ho'oponopono. I forgive you, I'm sorry, I thank you, I love you. Same 4 legs to the same balanced table, right? So the order matters not, right? But some of the references, like I said before, out in the internet world, will say things a little different than how I just positioned it. But the way that I positioned it is very essential to the idea that I love you, I'm sorry, I thank you, I forgive you. So if you always recall that the Ho'oponopono starts with self, right? I love you, I'm sorry, I thank you, I forgive you. Now, let's go through those 4 conditions, or those 4 aspects, or 4 legs, right? It's a forgiveness prayer, right? But in being a forgiveness, it's like, what is the main thing about forgiveness? And that is to maintain the energy and the conditions in the situation that allow love to flow. So I love you. And you can go so far as to say something to the effect of, I love you because you are family. I love you because you're blood. I love you because you've been around my whole life. I love you because you're human. I love you in your humanity. And it could be just that simple. Like if you're needing to practice the Ho'oponopono with someone that cut you off on the street, you don't know that person in any intimate way. So the love for that person may be just as simple and complex as your love for humanity, right? So I love you, human being, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be romantic. As a matter of fact, it should. I'm not going to say it should not be romantic. However, romantic love is not the point of the Ho'oponopono. It is unconditional love, general love for humanity, or like what a Christian may say, a Christian love or agape love. I love you because you are a creation of the Creator, as am I. Therefore, my family, therefore, one with me, because I love myself, I love you. That way, you understand, I love you. All right? I thank you. Now, why would I be thanking the person who offended me? Great question. And that is because the spirit of gratitude is one of the most formidable forces on this planet that we have access to. Spirit of gratitude has a way of manifesting and bringing things into being that 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 other spiritual energies or spiritual concepts or ideas that we share as humans doesn't. And part of that is because gratitude, in part, this is not all of it, but partly because gratitude is a choice, right? You choose to be grateful, right? Like something happens, somebody gives you something to eat, and you choose to be grateful. Oh, thank you. You choose to be grateful, right? And that choice is also in alignment with joy, right? So you're choosing that, and and that is the part of the spirit of gratitude when you say thank you. So I thank you. Why do I thank you? I thank you for the lesson, okay? Because if I've been injured by an individual through an experience, why the hell am I thanking you, right? Still, in the injury, there's lessons. In the experience, there's a learning, right? There's something for me to have learned. And without a doubt, there's something that I learned. Maybe it's something I learned about them, the one who offended me. Maybe it's something I learned about myself. Maybe it's something that I learned about the circumstances or about how to navigate circumstances like that, how to prevent myself from further injury, or maybe, some unintended positive benefit occurred as a result of the injury. There is a reason to be grateful in all circumstances, even those when we have taken offense. And that is the point that the Ho'oponopono is also reminding us, that we always look for the spirit of gratitude in all situations. And it works. Trust me, it works. So I love you. I thank you. I'm sorry. What? I've literally had people look at me and say, what? They offended me. Now you got me loving them and thanking them. Now you asking me to tell them that I'm sorry? What in the Jesus Christ are you? What the flabbernacle crackerjack? Yeah, I get it. And fortunately for me, I learned the Ho'oponopono through a meditation, and so I was already in a receiving position when I got this information, so I was able to accept it as I got it without any resistance. However, I realized too that everybody who gets exposed to this isn't necessarily going through that method that my elder gave me. So he gave it to me in a way that allowed me to accept it without resistance. And I'm very, very grateful for it because I received it without resistance. But yeah, I'm sorry. All right. Okay. So, all right. So, Adeleke, you got my attention now. How do you expect me to work this out? Okay. This is how this goes. I'm sorry. I am sorry for my role, whatever it may be, in the situation. Okay, so I'll make the example personal, so so that maybe it helps convey the point. like I mentioned to you, I kind of grew up. I grew up around violence in the home. I did see that in my youth, and it's something that I vowed in my youth that I would never have in my own experience. And so, in my young days as a young man, um, I I've only had one relationship that had any aspect of violence in the relationship, and that's with my oldest son. And hurt people. That's what they say. And this woman, she found her way to be violent, and it took everything in my power to not respond to her. I mean, at that time, in my 20s. I was in the gym two, three times a day. You know what I'm saying? Like I was walking around 230 pounds, yoked, squatting over 800 pounds at my high max, heavy deadlifts. Like I was in the gym, like I was strong. And she's walking around 130, you know, compared to me in height, like, and violent towards me. You got your Georgia. That's, and I'm like, what the? And it took everything in my power, man, to just not respond to that. I'm like, whoa, man, calm that down. Watch out, watch out. And for the longest time, I was like, I held that against her. But then at some point, I realized I held it against her for a little bit. But at some point, I realized that I played a role in that. I played a role in that, and my role in that wasn't. I'm not gonna go into the details but I did. I played my role in that. She wanted X from me, and maybe at some point I gave the impression that X was possible, or Y was possible, or some variation of X might be possible, or in some ways maybe I could have done more, maybe I could have done less in other situations. I'm not gonna, the point is not the details of the circumstance. The point is that at some point I realized I had a role in it, and the truth of it is like anytime you're offended by anyone in any situation, you always have your role in it. Like if at a minimum, your role might have been a trigger for them, and that's what it was really in this story that I'm telling. I served, or I stood in position as a trigger for her, and for her hurt that existed not because of me, that existed, that predated me, that the hurt that she had when she met me, for whatever reason, and in whatever I triggered some of that hurt. And even if I didn't do it consciously, I did it nonetheless. And for that, I can be, I can empathize. I can be apologetic. I can recognize the fact that I've had a role in your pain. I've had a role in the pain that you caused me, because I was present for the pain that you caused me. And no one can hurt anyone. We can't be hurt by another person without giving them permission to hurt us. And that, at a minimum, is our role in our own hurt. So the Ho'oponopono recognizes that and says, for the hurt that I feel as a result of your behavior, I am sorry. All right. And then the fourth leg is the leg forgiveness. Now, both of those are relative to forgiveness, whereas gratitude and love, or I thank you and I love you, are in the space of gratitude. I'm sorry and I forgive you, or in the space of forgiveness and reconciliation. Love and gratitude, forgiveness and reconciliation, right? So I'm sorry is really, about reconciliation. How do I acknowledge my experience, my role in the experience, to allow for the forgiveness to be? part of the experience. It just opens the door for forgiveness to come in because I am calling for it in by saying I'm sorry. Now, and it's and then so which leads to the last one, which is I forgive you. Now, some places you will see Oponopono memes that use language like "please forgive me," and so it uses the language of forgiveness, but it also uses the language of "I am sorry." So then you would get "I love you, I thank you, I'm sorry, please forgive me," and that is out of balance because now you're realizing you're saying "I'm sorry, I love you, I forgive you, please forgive me." That is begging, that's asking for permission that the Ho'oponopono is not about. It is about asserting forgiveness, asserting gratitude, asserting love, asserting reconciliation. It's about the self making a move and being the change that is desired, right? So I forgive you. I forgive you for what you did. I forgive you for stepping on my foot. I forgive you for not picking me up for lunch. I forgive you for not being a man of your word or woman of your word. I forgive you for, talking back or talking rudely or whatever the offense is. I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive you. Now, when you say I forgive you, that's why the rest of this too helps to condition the mind, condition the heart to actually forgive, right? Now here, it's not like magic, and it is like magic at the same time. When we do the Ho'oponopono, right? When we do the Ho'oponopono, the Ho'oponopono is best done in the ritual form that is created in, but it also works in private meditative ways as well. But the reason why it's best performed in this ritual paradigm is because it allows the energies to be cooled a bit. The ritual aspect of it allows the energies to be cooled a bit, appeased, so to speak, so that the forgiveness has room to spread out and be realized, right? Because if you're hot about it and you're still hot and you're like, oh, I love you, I thank you, I'm sorry, I forgive you. Yeah, okay, yes, it's a great start, right? But in itself, that in itself or a method like that would be short-served, right? By itself. So the forgiveness again too is I forgive you, and once you're in the position, I forgive you, like be prepared to let it go. Be prepared to let it go. And that letting go could be letting go of the hurt, letting go of the reconstruction of the offense. I'm not saying forget it. I'm not saying I forgive you means forgetting the what happened. Not at all. Not even in the slightest. But I forgive you does say I have no intention of remembering it. Remembering, meaning to remember it again or to put it back together again as if it's happening right now. Because when we remember something, we take our sensory inputs and our sensory recollections and we reconstruct, remember a situation. So we rebuild it in our mind's eye. We rebuild it in in the subconscious space. And when we rebuild it in the subconscious space, we re-experience it, right? And so that's what happens with pain a lot of times in trauma. We constantly remember the injury. And when we remember the injury, it's as if to our bodies and to our minds and to that the experience is happening again and again, and every time we remember it again and again and again, and then that's not true. It's just not what happens. Like when we're injured, and I'm speaking separate from like actual occurrences where the offense happens over and over again over time. That can happen, but that's a little different than what I'm talking about. I'm speaking as if it was a one-off, right? So if it was a one-off and this injury occurred and we remember the injury, then we live in the life as if the injury is happening in the now. Now, in some cases, someone injures us or offends us in a way, and something about the situation, the circumstances, we allow for the experience to happen again and again and again. It becomes the culture of the relationship, even sometimes. Like someone has offended us in a way, and maybe it's out of ignorance, just not knowing, or maybe it's out of lack of confidence, esteem, or maybe it's out of immaturity, that we allow it to happen again because we don't know how to not allow it to happen again, or we know that it's happening, we don't know how to, or maybe we don't believe that we are empowered to stop it from happening again. Understand? Like, so in some way we allow it, and we may not recognize it that we're allowing it, but the reality of it is that's what's happening. We allow it, we allow it to happen again and again and again, and even in our youth, like even children, like as a child, like I have had experiences where I've looked at this experience and I said, this experience is not happening anymore. I'm not allowing this to happen. And guess what? Now, it took a kind of boldness for a child to assert to an adult or someone who's supposed to be their elder that they're not going to allow the elder to XYZ. It takes a certain kind of boldness that and bravery too, because it can be treacherous to do that sometimes. Trust me, I understand. Still, at some point in our life, really, for our growth and our experience to evolve, we have to find the courage. We have to muster the courage. We have to be the courage to say, I'm good on that. This is the end of that. And forgiveness allows us to be able to do that, right? Because when we take the attitude of forgiveness and we say, you know what? Forgive them, for they know not what they do, like they say in the Christian scripture. You know what? What you got going on over there is some fraganacle bull. But you know what? I forgive you. But along with that forgiveness is the line in the sand. You know what? I forgive you. And in my forgiving you, I'm creating a reality for you to remove your power. I'm removing your power to allow this to happen again. Whatever power you had, whatever power I gave you to offend me, whatever power whatever power I didn't assume, whatever power I, inadvertently gave up, whatever power I intentionally gave up. You know what? Line in the sand. I take that power back, and I forgive you. I forgive you. I recognize that I gave you that power. I forgive you. Not even really my bad, but you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I gave up my power. No. I'm sorry that I gave up my power. And I forgive you for taking advantage of my power. You understand? And I love you. I love you. I love you in your humanity. And I thank you. I thank you for letting me see, helping me see how I gave my power up to you, purposely or unpurposely, intentionally or unintentionally. I thank you for helping me see the lesson, you know? However, I forgive you. And so, with that forgiveness, is the end of the cycle of this conversation. We will not have this conversation this way again, never no more. And I will allow my love for you to be the energy that fills the void, that fills in the vacuum of this experience, right? And I'm gonna allow gratitude to solidify this experience and make it real in the world, right? To materialize it, right? Right? And I'm gonna allow my forgiveness to be the hinge pin for all of it, and I'm gonna allow reconciliation to lead. So, there's a lot of words. However, sometimes a lot of words are necessary, especially when we are dealing with pain caused by another, because sometimes it's hard to find the words, and so I offer to you these words of encouragement and love, kindness, and I pray that you find utility and joy. Hopefully, it was lightly entertaining because I tend to try to do that. But I pray you find utility and joy, usefulness, and joy in realizing that there are ways of doing the near impossible. And when you realize that there are ways of doing the near impossible, you realize that you're far closer to you're as close to creator as you are to creation. Let me say it that way. You're as close to creator as you are to creation. Yeah, I captured the idea like I wanted it to. Love you. I thank you. I'm sorry for your experience. And I forgive you for being so hard on yourself. It's your boy, Adele King. Love you. Peace.